Okay, this is the second video for you to watch while I'm gone. And this one is talking about classifying triangles and not just the definitions, but actually using them as part of a problem. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is see some pictures and practice those classifications again and use that vocab. Remember, there's two ways to vote to classify them: by side, scaling, isosceles, equilateral, and then by angle, right, acute, obtuse, and equiangular. So each word is going to have at least one. Occasionally, they've got more than one. Okay, number one, by side. Well, if I'm looking at side, I've got two sides that are marked congruent, and two or more sides that are marked congruent is isosceles. Okay. And then if I'm talking about by angle measure, looking at my angle, I've got that one angle there, it's 100. Well, 100 is greater than 90. That makes it obtuse. So it's got to be an obtuse triangle. Okay, number two. Number two, if I'm talking about all the sides, if I look at the side lengths, 8, 15, and 17 are all different numbers. And when they're all different, it's called scalene. And this one, when I'm looking at the angle measure, it's got one angle right here that's marked as being 90 degrees. Well, that makes it a right angle. And if it's got one right angle, then it is a right triangle. Okay, number three, if we look at all the sides are all different numbers. And if they're all different numbers, that makes it scalene. And if we look at the angle measures, nothing is marked over 90 and nothing is marked equal to 90. And they all look pretty small, so they're all acute. So this is going to be an acute triangle. All right, the last one. This time, all because of these dashes, all the sides are marked the same. So that is equilateral. Okay. Now, some of you may have picked up from the other notes that if it's got two or more, it's also isosceles. And this has at least two. So this is technically isosceles as well. Okay. As for angle measure, all the angles are the same, so that makes it equiangular. And if you look at those angles, none of them are marked as 90 and none are marked greater than 90, so it's also acute. Okay? Now, I want you to focus when it's in that situation as equilateral and equiangular, but the other ones are also correct. Okay, so the triangle sum theorem says that in a triangle, the sum of all three angles is 180 degrees. Okay? So if we write an equation for this picture, we can say the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C, whoops, not 90, what was I doing? Equals 180 degrees. Every time we have a triangle, we can add all three up and they'll equal 180. Okay, so thinking about that, hopefully you brought your calculators to class because it's math class. Let's look at the other side of the paper. On these, we want to find the value of x. Well, in a triangle, we know that all three angles have to add to 180. So if I do 180 minus 60 minus 40, I'm going to get what's remaining, and what's remaining is 80. So x is 80 degrees. Over here on number two, I can do it again. I can do 180 minus 35 minus 50. 180 minus 35 minus 50. Sorry, I'm plugging it into my calculator and not doing a quick job. Is 95. And so x is 95. Okay, we can keep going. Over here, we can do 180 minus 65 minus 60. And we get 55. So this missing angle is 55. Okay, technically on these, we're finding the value of x, so we're not finding an angle measure, so it's no degrees. But if you put degrees, I wouldn't count it wrong for this particular one. Okay, in this one, I'm going to do 180 minus 60 minus, remember, this box means 90, and that difference is going to be 30. Okay, But what if it wasn't just numbers? What if we had a little bit of algebra in it? So in this one, we want to find the value of x. Well, we know that all three angles in a triangle have to add to 90. So I'm going to add 2x. I didn't mean to say 90. I meant to say 180. I was looking at the 90-degree mark. Okay, 2x plus 3x minus 20 plus 90, because remember we have to add 1, 2, 3 angles, all three add to 180. Okay, combine like terms, 2 and 3 would be 5x, 90 and 20, or 90, negative 20 and 90 would be 70 equals 180. So we'll subtract 70 from both sides. So I get 5x equals 110. And 110 divided by 5 gives me x is 22. Now that I know x is 22, now I can plug it in, find the other angle measures. This one I already know. C, you don't have to do any work. C is just 90. But this one over here would be 2 times 22, which would be 44. This one over here would be 3 times 22 minus 20. So you'd have 66 minus 20, which would be 46. Okay. So we figured out that this angle here was 44 degrees, and this one was 46 degrees. We knew this one was 90. And the question then asked, classify it by angle measure. So with angle measure, you're looking at acute, obtuse, right, or equiangular. Well, definitely don't have all the angles the same. They're not all less than 90, but we do have one that's equal to 90. So that would make it a right triangle. Okay, last one. First things first, we got to figure out the value of x. So to do that, we have to add all three angles. So I'm going to have x plus 10 plus 50. So here's x plus 10 and 50. All three add up to 180. And now I got to combine like terms. So I have 2x plus 60 equals 180. I'll subtract 60 from both sides. So I have 2x equals 120. Divide by 2, so x is 60. Okay, we already know this is 50. This angle A is just x, so it's got to be 60. And this one is going to be 60 plus 10, which would be 70. Okay, so if I'm looking at those angle measures, I have 60, 50, and 70. They're all less than 90. They're all acute. So that would make this one an acute triangle.